welcome to Co-Opinions. My name is Josh, and today I have Brent on.
Hello.
And Mark on.
What up?
So, today we are going to talk about two topics that are almost entirely unrelated. Brent wanted to talk about Rogue Squadron, and Brent also suggested we talk about Mario Kart, but there are so many kart racers that both drew inspiration from Mario Kart and Mario Kart could learn a lot from that I wanted to do that as well. So we're going to do that for our second topic. But before we get into all that, let's talk about some little game news and some things we've been playing. I myself finally got around to beating Danganronpa 3, which had the most amazing ending in the world, and at least a couple of our listeners are going to play it, so I won't ruin it. But Brent, I know I told you it. And Mark did, I told you it as well. It is the most amazing FU to the fan base in the world, and I love it to death. Other than that, I picked up the RE7 DLC because it was on 20% off sale. It's been okay, not great. It kind of has 6 parts, there's 2 DLCs, each one has 3 bits to it.
Are they story or?
Kinda. There's the banned footage, which in part 1 includes an escape room. Remember the camera guy from the demo?
Mm-hmm.
Did you play the demo, Mark?
Yes.
So that camera guy goes through a lot. The first one has to do with you being tied up in the bedroom, and you have to it's basically an escape room. But if you get caught, the matriarch of the household will vomit bugs down your throat. It's really interesting. That was the best one by far. Then the second one is basically a survival mode of Horde from Gears of Horde from Gears of War. It's weird.
That's weird to put into
super
RE7.
weird. And there's also a mode called Ethan Must Die, I believe, which is just supposed to be a super hard difficulty mode. Haven't even cracked that open yet. The second one included a prequel DLC, which you played as the main female, and it's what happened before. It's really sad, actually. And that one was good, but that was the most storyish. And the other one is Blackjack. Playing again as the cameraman, he is basically having to play blackjack against another person where the crazy son, the auntie, is cutting off fingers, getting electrocuted, or getting a saw to your face. It's weird. It's still blackjack. There's no two ways about that. And then the extra bonus mode on that is called Jack's 55th birthday. You have to find a bunch of food and feed the main dude. Everybody's wearing party hats and it plays jazzy music. I'll probably show you guys later. Yeah, it's been interesting. I'm glad I picked it up because I love the game, but it's still not as good as the main game. Transitioning off that, was there some news I wanted to talk? Oh, that was it. The Activision DLC thing. Have you guys heard about this?
I have not.
They patented a system where in matchmaking, it allows you to see, basically, it allows the matchmaking to be dependent on what you have bought.
Oh, I have heard about this.
Reddit
the microtransaction.
Reddit blew up about this. They patented a system that allows matchmaking to be dictated by what small cosmetic items, or really anything, you've purchased. That's redonkulous. Yeah, pretty much. Except much louder. That was the response from the internet. But that's all I had. Brent, let's kick it over to you for stuff you've played and little interesting details.
The only thing I played recently was the Battlefront 2 beta.
Which you were excited about because it turned out...
it's a really good game. Is it 100% what I want? No, but nothing's ever going to be 100% what you want it to be. But I'm really excited from what I got to play on there. So, thumbs up.
Good to hear.
I know Mark played it too.
I also played it, and it was fantastic.
So, news-wise, Visceral shutting down.
Yeah, I know. That's a huge bummer, mostly from 5 years ago at this point.
Yeah.
R.I.P. in peace, Dead Space.
Well, I mean, I'm bummed because I was looking forward to the Star Wars game they were making, which they had finished footage and stuff, so curious what's going on there.
Yeah, not sure how they're going to retool that.
It probably doesn't need to be retooled.
Right. The wording does not seem good when they're like, we're just going to retool this and hand it off to someone else.
Well, the wording I saw strongly suggested that they pulled it and had to retool it because EA wanted to redo it because it wasn't Destiny. From what I read from the press,
I'm a Destiny player, and like
from the press release, it really made it sound like that. Yeah, this was going along and being a single player game, and we don't really feel it fits the landscape.
So then what's BioWare making?
I do.
Yeah, but here's the thing. They did an MMO Star Wars game, and it didn't necessarily go that well, from what I remember.
Isn't it still around?
It's still around.
Like
but how many people do you know play it?
Actually,
I don't know a lot of people who play MMOs.
I know several.
I mean, I play some of them.
Well,
but
the Old Republic had to move to the whole free-to-play thing like a lot of them, so...
Yeah, because subscriptions are dumb sometimes.
Well, and that's a whole different thing.
But yeah, I don't want to derail that.
Yeah, we could do a mini-sode on that.
But hearing that
resounding meh.
Hearing that frustrates me even more with EA.
Yeah.
Not that that's hard.
But, Mark, you had said you'd been playing the Battlefront 2. Brent, you're good?
Yeah.
Mark, you said you'd been playing the Battlefront 2 beta as well. You also had a little more, and you wanted to piggyback on EA butchering studios.
Oh, Lord. So, yeah, as far as the beta portion goes, that was great. I will thoroughly looking forward to the polished product of that. Mm-hmm. Everything looks good. The fact that they're finally adding in classes is what's really drawing me back to this. The class thing is sorely needed. That's what Battlefront was before the first game that they re-put out. Mm-hmm. As far as EA killing studios, Jesus Christ. It pains me because there's several studios that as a kid growing up that have also been just wasted by them, like Maxis and Westwood and Black Box. There's a couple other ones too. DICE even is kind of not what it used to be anymore. So it's tragic. Pandemic, yeah. Lord. So that kind of sucks. But as far as what I've been playing, I mainly have just been playing like I said, I'm a Destiny player, so I've been playing a lot of Destiny 2. Iron Banner was this past week. It was pretty good, except for what you will hear everyone complain about, spawn kills. They did a real bad job with spawning on their competitive maps for Iron Banner. It was real bad to the point where you could predict almost where people were going to spawn in on the maps. So you would spawn in, and it was all control-based, so it was control points. You'd spawn in, and you could easily circumvent that and get behind people and just spawn kill them as they came in. Granted, you get a shield when you come in, but if you got a good gun and you're sitting on something, no point. So that kind of... They need to tweak that. But overall, still good. So I'm excited that that's still staying somewhat strong on that.
Glad to hear that's been going well. I know that I've heard a lot of people real stoked about it, continuously playing it.
Oh, I did forget one thing. The raid recently. So they finally introduced the prestige mode. Mm-hmm. Since we're talking about things that are salty with Destiny, they introduced the prestige mode, and apparently a team cracked it. And Bungie got all excited and announced that they cracked it, though there's a whole controversy because apparently they found a glitch and even mentioned it in their video when they were doing it. So we'll see how the backlash from that comes about with where they're headed. I just remembered that. So.
Nice.
Yeah.
Brent, you got something to add there?
That's funny.
Okay. Well, on that note, I think we're good to kick it over to Brent so he can start talking about Rogue Squadron. Brent, why don't you give a little backstory and what you're hoping to delve into here?
So I wanted to talk Rogue Squadron since we are coming up here on the release of Battlefront, though we probably should have talked about the original Battlefronts, but because...
Didn't we talk about the original Battlefront during the Battlefront 2 minisode?
Maybe. Did we briefly? I don't remember.
We had to.
The original one, not the original.
I feel like that was covered.
Maybe.
I really think it was.
Anyway. Neither here nor there, but also because we're less than 2 months out from The Last Jedi, so...
Oh, right, yeah, your nerd movie's coming out.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, this is my Star Wars one. Yeah, Rogue Squadron is a series I wanted to talk about with Mark here because it's one a franchise we put a lot of hours in with some friends, so...
Now, what is the gameplay in Rogue Squadron? Because for all I know, you could be a bunch of robots tending bars. I truthfully don't know.
So the Rogue Squadron games are fighter simulators. They were basically successors to the old Star Wars X-Wing and TIE Fighter games for the PC and Mac from the 90s, the early 90s. People were really into that. But the one difference was the first Rogue Squadron came out on PC and N64. It did not have space combat, but it did have...
Didn't the X-Wing games have space combat?
Did, which was a drastic change. I think, if I remember right, the PC version also had those live action videos.
Oh, man. Remind me, just because this brought back to mind, was it Tim Curry from Command & Conquer? There was Red Alert. Tim Curry and Red Alert.
Yeah, that's Red Alert.
There's
one of the studios that got killed. Hey!
But there's a video of him talking about going to space as a communist. You 100% have to see this video. I'm going to make it.
I think I know the video you're talking about, and it's glorious because Tim Curry.
Yeah. But anyway, sorry.
The first one, it had a brief story where it's set in between A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back. You play as Luke and I think Wedge, but Luke Skywalker for the most part. It's a brief story. You rescue a Star Wars character from Return of the Jedi named Crix Madine. There's another character that gets added to your thing. It's a plot to stop a villain named Grand Moff Sheerden. You got to kill him. And then there's a final bonus level set 5 years after Return of the Jedi. So you played this one at a friend's house, right, Mark?
I did. I didn't ever own this specific one, but I had played it thoroughly at a childhood friend's house. So I did enjoy the game.
I liked it a lot. I mean, you could destroy everything, including things you probably weren't supposed to.
How many games were there in this series? Are you just focusing on the first one for now, or are we going to cover...
No, we're going to cover briefly each one.
Okay.
The first one, because it was all ground combat, there were cities you fought over, which you could destroy buildings you probably shouldn't have, and you could watch
like Mos Eisley
people come out of that. Probably a little.
You shouldn't judge their lifestyle choices like that, Brent. Inappropriate.
He's probably targeting all the sand people.
You could do that, actually. Also, you could do that.
And the Banthas.
Yes, you could do that as well. But the first one also had, we talked about this in the car, unlockable codes too, because it came out right before the episode 1.
Yeah, it was 98.
Naboo Starfighter. There were several unlockable levels. The Battle of Hoth, the Trench Run, and what was the last one? Beggar's Canyon.
Yep.
Other vehicles, the TIE Interceptor, the Millennium Falcon, a Chicken Walker level for reasons to be able to walk around and shoot stuff.
They had a Cadillac for some reason.
For reasons I don't remember.
Like a car.
Yeah, like a car.
Cadillac, like a car.
You just flew around in it.
Yep. Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Now, real quick, you said the Trench Run. How is that a level?
That's a good question because I didn't play. I didn't even know these existed until I was looking it up.
I don't know if I remember playing that one or not.
So that's actually a good transition. So to the second Rogue Squadron, which you don't remember if you... I mean, technically you've played it, but we'll get into that.
Right.
Second Rogue Squadron game has a lot of... It has a storyline set in from the first Star Wars to Return of the Jedi. You play various levels. There's a storyline there. It's loose. I barely remembered it.
You said it was between the second and third movie? Don't say fifth and sixth.
No. It was between A New Hope and Return of the Jedi. It's from A New Hope to
Return of the Jedi. These are predominantly set with the original trilogy.
Yeah, the second one is...
The second one spans all 3 games?
Yeah. It has a brief storyline with some levels involving attacking Imperial stuff, but it gives you the opportunity because people wanted to play, movie battles. So it starts with the Trench Run. You start fighting outside of it. You have to take out so many TIE fighters and things, and then the last part of the level is doing the Trench Run and making it to the end and shooting. Then you get to play several comic book. There's several levels based on book stories. Like there's one.
So did the second one come out on N64 too?
No, it came out on GameCube.
This was actually a launch title for GameCube.
Yes.
I
guess we should probably say these were all Nintendo exclusives, except the first one was on PC. I do not believe the second 2 were.
Okay, continue.
But yeah, the second one was basically gives you the ability to play movie battles.
And it was 03, I think, when that was launched as well.
No, you're thinking of the third one. I think this was 01.
Or it might have been 01.
Yeah. You keep talking about it. I'm going to look up the specific date.
But so do you remember much about this one, Mark?
The second one?
Yeah.
It was 01.
Was it?
And it was developed by Factor 5.
It got really good reviews.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun.
Because this is the one that they like you said, they feature the short clips from the movies.
Yeah. This one featured
during
clips from the movies
during the
that
menu
faded
screens and
into.
cut screens.
So cinematic.
But they also had the Battle of Yavin in there too.
What
Battle
is
of
that?
Yavin. That is the battle of... So after the first Death Star is destroyed, the Empire attacks their hidden rebel base and they have to flee. So you get to play that.
That was in the second movie, right?
A New Hope. No, you're thinking the Battle of Hoth.
Yeah, I thought. Okay.
Battle of Yavin is the place.
Wait, that happens in the first.
Okay. There are like 3 years in between A New Hope and The Empire Strikes Back.
Okay, so this Battle of Yavin, like Kevin with a Y.
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
that's not in a movie.
No, it's like in a book.
That's fine.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
So some of this is book stuff because the Rogue Squadron things were X-Wing books. A series called X-Wing, and some of them were titled Rogue Squadron. That's where they got some of these stories from.
Gotcha.
So that one, but I guess the one we sunk in the most time into was
Yeah, it was
Rogue
the
Squadron
third one.
3 Rebel Strike.
This should be the one that I actually own.
Which came out on what?
It was
Also
still
GameCube?
GameCube, and it was 2 years later in 2003.
Yeah.
And it was still also developed by Factor 5.
It did not get as good of reviews. Why is that?
That one I don't know. I liked this.
Yeah, I don't understand.
So this one had different... I mean, generally it was the same kind of setup as the second one, where it was a lot of a story that spanned A New Hope to Return of the Jedi. So you could play even more levels of battles from the movies, but it had also a loose story in there.
Did you play as a consistent character?
Yeah, most of them you played as Luke and Wedge in the second one, but you played as Wedge Antilles and another character in the third one. And
Did Biggs die?
Huh?
Did Biggs die?
In A New Hope.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't remember because I know Biggs and Wedge far more from Final Fantasy. I remember when you were playing Final Fantasy 15, you're like, wow, this is a direct rip on Star Wars. I go, they've been doing this since the early 90s.
Yeah, I did not know
But I mean, the third one had the big ability for you to actually get out of your vehicle and get into land vehicles.
that may be one thing.
And I think that might have been some of the criticism.
Yeah, you actually, some of the levels you got out to do shooting with a cannon, running around as like Luke with a lightsaber. So yeah, you did play some levels as Luke.
Now, why would that have been divisive?
I think it was rough from the transition from the ship to the on-ground battles, if I remember right. It wasn't smooth or streamlined. It would kind of disorientate you when you got out of the ship. Like, you're used to these controls, and now you're out of the ship, and it felt like it was a different set of controls.
And in a way that was not well executed.
Yeah, it was not conducive to what you may have been used to from the game. So I think that might have been a turnoff from some people, because the levels forced you to do that in some parts. You didn't have a choice.
Wow.
So I think that's probably where those
reviews. Like the Battle of Hoth one, you're doing the snow speeders around the Imperial Walker, and then for reasons you have to get out of it. And
because you play Luke.
Jump on a tauntaun and run around on it. It's so weird.
And then you have to cut open the tauntaun.
Well, they don't do that, but they do the scene where you have to get underneath the AT-ATs.
You have to get under the AT-AT, shoot up.
You have to use your lightsaber to cut it open and throw a grenade in there, like they do from the film.
Huh.
That I completely forgot.
Yeah.
The third one did add the co-op feature.
Right. Which is why we sunk so much time
two
in.
didn't have co-op?
No.
There was no two-player to the first two.
Nope.
But this second one added co-op, which was essentially, they took the second game and it was co-op.
Oh.
So
is that good or bad?
I don't know. It was fun. I mean, it made having the second game almost useless. Because now you could play it with a friend.
But that's where we sunk most of the time in while we were kids was...
Well, that and trying to, like, gold medal every level as best as we could, which is hard.
Back before achievements were really a thing, it was you had medals.
Yes.
Yeah, and that was where personal pride was more of a thing than saying that you had a 75 gamer score to show for it.
Right.
Did a lot of...
You'd boot up your actual game, you're like, look at this.
Oh, yeah, it also had a challenge mode. I forgot about that.
It did, because we spent a lot of time as the stormtrooper part with the waves.
You have to play as Luke, and you have to, like, mow down stormtroopers. Yeah.
That's kind of dark.
It was dark. We would have a competition to see who could get the highest as far as how many waves you could do. And Cody was always competitive.
Was there a limit? I don't remember if there was a.
I don't know if we ever found the limit.
Way. Yeah, no, just it's a franchise I really like because I like flight sims. Well, fighter sims.
Has anything ventured to try and carry on the legacy of these games?
So that actually kind of ties in with Battlefront in a way, because some of that concept with them introducing more space battles now in Battlefront 2 seems to be where that concept's been derived from, was the old Rogue Squadron games.
Yeah.
I can't say for sure or not, because there's not like a, yes, this is where we took it from. But if you look at how it's set up, with even in the demo, it's very reminiscent of that feel of flying those fighters. And the controls are kind of similar.
Except instead of fighting PC characters, you're essentially fighting.
Yeah, you actually
players.
have other PvP setups.
I mean, yeah, I would say Battlefront, the original Battlefront 2 for the PS2. It also had the space battles. I would say they're good holdovers. I don't think they're an X-Wing or Rogue Squadron. They're the best we've got.
It would be nice for them to actually
there was supposed to be a Rogue Squadron X-Wing-esque game being made by EA that they canned pretty quick. So that was the first game they canned 2 years ago. So
no hard feelings, though.
No.
Sure. You could say that.
So what else about these games?
Generally, I mean, there are things I didn't like talking about. There was the jarring. Like we said,
the foot combat. Yeah, the ground combat,
especially in the third one. I mean, there's I wish the first one only having ground battles kind of sucked. I mean, as they went along, they added more that I did enjoy. More walkers that you fought on ground levels, more space enemies, more different TIE fighters that you had to fight, and more vehicles that you got to fly.
True, but I also think there was somewhat of a little bit of a balancing issue with some of the fighters, too. I don't think they quite got down differentiating flying like, say, an A-Wing as opposed to an X-Wing. Some of it felt similar when it should have felt different, because these ships have different roles. You would expect a flight simulator, if I'm going to have a ship that's really good at this to do one thing, probably isn't going to be the best for a bombing run. And you had some of those ships that were kind of similar. So that's a bit of a gripe that I have. But to be fair, it was them still trying to figure out it.
And doing the Y-Wing, like doing the bombing on some things, like
the camera angles.
Yeah, where you had the camera angle down.
So it would, when you go to do the bombing runs, there were certain levels where you could fly a Y-Wing and you had to do these bombing runs. And when you did them, you had to drop bombs on shield generators to knock it out for your fighters to then come in and take care of stuff. The problem is your flight sim part, you're behind the Y-Wing. So you're looking forward as you're shooting, like you would expect a flight simulator, or to be in the cockpit, one of the two. When you went into the bombing run, you would then have this weird camera angle shift where it would feel like it's almost lifted up 45-degree angle. It wasn't a straight down. It was at like a vertical, or a diagonal angle. So you had to kind of prejudge where your bomb was going to go, and the bomb didn't go straight there. It kind of lobbed. So it was a learning curve.
Gotcha.
It was a rough learning curve.
So that was a problematic part, is what I...
Just from a game design standpoint, right.
And like with the first Rogue Squadron game, like for the Millennium Falcon, like he took up half the freaking screen, so flying it, and it wasn't like you had to cheat code for it.
It didn't turn on a dime.
Yeah.
It was not a small ship, was it?
It wasn't, but when it takes up half your screen, it's hard to see half the things you're fighting.
It's hard to see half the things you're fighting. It's also hard to see where the heck you're going half the time.
But, I mean, do I want to see... I would like to see another Rogue Squadron X-Wing game finally happen. I'd like to see AA chunk something out like that, though will they? We'll see.
Now, does it have to be... Now, this is going to be kind of antithetical to even this topic. Does it have to be a Star Wars space flight thing, or would you just take a good space flight thing?
I mean, I would. I mean, I like Star Fox, which I would consider a space flight game.
Some more than others.
It depends. But
I mean, generally in this respect, I mean, when I want Star Wars action, I would like a Star Wars one.
Okay.
I would agree with that. I am kind of biased towards space things in general.
Right.
So I would absolutely love to have more fighter sims that are set in space, but I will kind of take what I can get where I can get it because it's not really a popular genre still.
Well, what about an explorer sim set in space?
Oh, I know where you're going with this. Mike's not here.
Yeah. All right, valid. I'm okay. All right. So what else we got about this? Or we think we're about good?
Yeah, I think we've covered each game consistently. I mean, what we can. I mean, the third one had a lot of what we played together as a group, so...
It's just a really good nostalgia type setup for us because it's something that we would gather around the old TV set to play when we were kids. And it would be nice to see them do something more, and I think that's what we're kind of longing for. But time will tell. Maybe they'll come to their senses. I mean, if the series of Star Wars keeps going well, especially with Disney now having it, I have hopes that there will be more things that we can look forward, minus EA digging their claws into too much of it.
Would you say you have a new hope?
Oh.
I'm not sorry.
I have a hope. I don't know if it's new.
All right, have I killed this
Yes.
topic? Cool. Transitioning seamlessly off of that, Brent had mentioned a while back that he really wanted to talk about Mario Kart, as we said in the opener. But a thing that gets brought up a lot whenever Mario Kart's discussed, because at this point we're on the 8th-ish Mario Kart.
8.5 is what I can say.
Right.
Yeah, I was going to say, how do you define that at this point?
Really, calling it 8 Deluxe seems about right, because the only thing they added gameplay-wise was a little bit of battle, but we're getting way ahead of ourselves.
It's Deluxe,
here.
son.
Deluxe! So, how we're defining kart racing, I'm going straight off the Wikipedia here. It's games that have more of the unusual racetracks, the obstacles, action elements, like attacking each other, just having items in general. And I had no idea, and they typically don't have the complexities of racing. You never have to worry about gear shift, clutch, nothing like that.
They also tend to feel more arcade.
That is a common characteristic,
Right.
which is something we'll actually be able to touch on in what I would consider a Mario Kart spin-off, but we'll get into that. Apparently, the way back Genesis could be considered this game that came out in 76, over a decade before any of us were born, called Crashing Race, which was the first game to include vehicle combat. That had to be like Atari back in 76, right? And after that, in 88, Power Drift was a go-kart racing game, but is widely accepted that Super Mario Kart for the Super Nintendo was the first kart racer that popularized it. Now, who in here has played...
I've played. It was not my first one.
But who has played it?
I don't think I've played the original Mario Kart.
To be frank,
I've
it's
seen
not
it.
good.
It's not easy.
It's not easy because there are so many things we take for granted in our kart racers now.
Yeah.
I mean, they tried to do a 3D presentation on a 2D plane. It's very
I mean, the
awkward.
closest thing, like I told you guys earlier, that and it's not really a kart, but my first experience with any kind of racing combat type mixture was Road Rash for the Sega Genesis.
Yeah, that was on the bikes.
Yeah, it was on motorcycles, and essentially you would race on the motorcycles. Your player that you were controlling could punch or kick the opponent next to him, and they also introduced weapons like clubs and nunchucks and chains and all kinds of things you could use to hit the bikes. And when you did, it would knock the other player's stamina down or damage the bike, causing them to wipe out and give you an advantage to be able to win the race. And I remember taking that over to my grandparents' house and playing that all the time when I was a kid. That was really my first foray into any kind of arcade-esque racing combat kart thing without karts.
I did play on Super Nintendo the original Mario Kart, and I remember even at the time it wasn't super easy. Brent, you look like you...
Well, I mean, I picked it up when it came to Virtual Console. I remember Jake's like, I've played the original one compared to this newfangled stuff. Now he'll kill me for saying that. But, and like the controls are so hard.
Yeah, I mean...
Staying on the track.
It's definitely a more complicated... And people say this whenever they run, like they do speed runs of the Mario Kart games. people will ask them to rate which ones are easier and more difficult, and they will always say the first one's more difficult because you couldn't drift as easy. There were not nearly as many shortcuts. That game, Rainbow Road, was a living nightmare in the Super Nintendo version. Just absolutely awful. To the point where when the sequel came out that I played in 64.
I mean, isn't that the one most of it? Oh, did you start on the Super Nintendo?
Yeah.
Okay, 64 was like my first kart racer.
A lot of people did.
Yeah. I mean, I loved it. That also had one of the best battle systems, too.
Well, and we'll touch on that when it comes
Right, yeah. I don't want to jump ahead, but...
So, the first one I played was Mario Kart on Super Nintendo, and that had the battle mode where you were basically in your big arena, and I think it only had one kind of battle mode, which was the balloon battle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And that was the basis for the best battle mode that those games had. Now, when we talk about other racers, I'll be 100% frank, I do not know if any other kart racers had a battle mode like that, because the ones I played included Mod Nation Racers, Sega All-Star Racing Transformed. I don't recall a battle mode in any of those.
I'm trying to remember if Diddy Kong Racing
That's
had
what
one.
I was just looking at,
Like,
because
I'm
I
like,
feel like
does
that's
it?
the one that may have it. It had an adventure mode. I remember that.
Yeah, because there was a big pig dude.
Yeah, there's a story I don't remember.
Yeah, there's an actual story to it.
When I was looking at it, I'm like, this had a story? I don't remember any of this.
I can't remember what the pig's name was, but yeah, there's a big pig wizard. Knowing the fact that it was N64, he could have been called Pizzard for all I know, or Whizpig. I think his name might have been Whizpig.
I think it was Whizpig.
Anyways, so
was
I right?
So is.
Yes.
It was an evil intergalactic pig wizard named Whizpig that arrives at Timber Island and attempts to take it over.
Now, Diddy Kong Racing, I feel, is one of the earliest examples where we can talk about how Mario Kart unfairly eked out other people. Because Diddy Kong Racing, even on the N64, had multiple modes of transportation, didn't it?
Yeah, I had a lot of... Since I didn't own Mario Kart, I owned Diddy Kong, but you had the plane. The hardest one was definitely the hovercraft.
You talking for Diddy Kong?
Yeah.
Yeah, the hovercraft was a strong learning curve.
The kart, the hovercraft, the plane. The plane wasn't bad. The plane was actually a lot of fun. The hovercraft was hard because it was like a hovercraft. Trying to maneuver with that thing was a pain.
Now, the benefits of each of those... So, if memory serves, because I played it very minimally, and I remember it handling more sluggish than Mario Kart, so I'm like, not doing this. The benefits of each of those was the kart went the fastest, but could not do different terrains.
Yeah.
The hovercraft did a consistent speed across all terrains, and the plane was the slowest, but it flew.
And you had shortcuts. So.
Okay.
They kind of, I'm reading up on this, they kind of explain it. So the three different ones. The car was well-rounded, but was slowest on surface such as sand and water. The hovercraft could do both sand and water, but it lacked acceleration and maneuverability, obviously, which we've covered. The plane had access to aerial areas, good acceleration and maneuvering. However, it had the slowest speed.
Okay.
And then they had boosters, or known as zippers.
Yeah, because you couldn't beat Whizpig without using all the zippers.
Yeah, various balloons of different color power-ups.
I really liked the game.
And the red balloons granted missiles.
Yeah, that was... Yeah, the balloons granted different stuff. It wasn't like the mystery boxes Mario Kart had.
Red was for missiles. Then you had yellow for shields. And you had blue for speed. And then green was deployable traps. And rainbow was magnetic ability to bring the player closer to the nearest racer. If multiple balloons of the same color picked up, it would be upgraded to a more powerful version.
Huh. Now, that right there...
So there was 3 levels.
We see a couple different things there. One, non-randomized item boxes. That is an interesting... Do you think that kart racers should go with non-randomized item boxes, or do you think that randomness adds to what they are?
I don't know.
Competitive wise?
Competitive, I feel like maybe Mystery's better.
Well,
If you're going from a purely skill-based point,
if you're
yes.
about to, well, is it better?
Ooh,
Because I'm gonna real quick. Final Destination, no items, Star Fox. Like,
yeah.
See,
Okay.
the thing that kills people, and I won't name names, is that I won't name names, but if you are in first, heaven forbid somebody not nails you with a blue shell, which they have worked at rebalancing. And also there's a way to get around it, which I did that to you once, Brent. And they've worked on rebalancing it. But it is entirely possible to get hit with a blue shell, red shell, lightning, red shell, green shell. You can go from first to 10th like nothing. Is that randomness what makes these kart racers good, though? Because if you're going on purely skill, then you probably shouldn't be playing a kart racer.
I think, though, for that part, to answer that question, I think it's what makes it fun.
Yes.
Is the randomization, because you don't know what you're going to get and you're hoping for that great power up.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're going from I want to be competitive with this and focus on the racing aspect, which is, again, the wrong thing to focus on, then the non-randomization is the way to go, because then you can try to go for those specific colors and ignore the ones you don't need.
Something you said reminded me. Has anybody ever, because I worked at Walmart for a number of years, and when Mario Kart Wii came out, I'm like, I am buying this day one. There's no question in my mind. This looks awesome. And one of my coworkers said, I don't really like racing games. Did anybody else encounter that situation? Because my response was always, it's not racing. It's Mario Kart.
Well, people always say, you like racing games? Like, no, I like Mario Kart.
Now, I do like racing games.
I know you do.
I actually play racing simulators like Forza and Gran Turismo and those things.
Ooh.
But I actually do play those racing simulators. And if I want to actually race, like I'm driving a real car, that's my go-to, not a kart racer. If I'm wanting to just have fun and kick back, Mario Kart.
Yeah, anything less than 150cc is super fun.
Learns that the hard way.
Oh my god!
I just read up. This is interesting too. Diddy Kong also added the maximum of 10 bananas, which would improve your speed.
Now that is interesting because that's something that we saw
in current Mario Kart.
We didn't see it for like a decade.
And if a racer got hit,
it feels like
2 bananas would be deducted.
Sounds real familiar.
There's a lot of things that Mario Kart seems to have taken years later.
Now, so we're just focusing on Diddy Kong versus Mario Kart here, but more games tried to capitalize on this kart racing. I know some popular ones included Crash. That was the one I heard a lot of people reference.
Yeah.
100% honesty,
played.
I never played any of them. Apparently there were 3.
I played the first one.
I played one of them, but I don't remember which one.
Okay,
I feel like they were like
because again, I don't have a PlayStation.
Yeah,
it's always at a friend's house.
Yeah, I feel like the boxes in Crash that you would hit and stuff.
Yes,
to get like those were the kind for the items you had to hit.
Now, was it just Mario Kart with?
I feel like there were some other gimmicks, but I can't remember. It's been so long since I played it.
And they made 3 of them, and I know
I'm not saying it was fun. But I didn't own an original PlayStation, so I had to play it at someone else's house.
I just feel like whether or not you were a fan of that game required you having played it. Like, everybody's played Mario Kart. That's why I tried to get away from us just focusing on it, because I want to talk about like Crash, or there's some other ones on PlayStation. Or Diddy Kong in this case, because
I love Diddy Kong.
Was Diddy Kong re-released on the DS? Was that a sequel, or was that just a re-release?
I think it's just a re-release.
Okay.
Yeah, because there was a sequel, but it never happened.
Well, then there was supposed to be a sequel.
It was planned. I don't think they got into the production stages.
Gotcha.
So Crash actually did have a battle mode.
Okay.
Up to 4 players. Customized battles, launching weapons during combat, and 1 of 7 special battle arenas. The first one came out in 99 in October. Actually, just on the 19th of 1999.
Oh, so that just eked right in there.
Just eked right in
there.
Look
at that.
I really wish I could speak more to this game, because I remember a lot of people's would say when I'm going, you want to play Mario Kart? They'd be like, oh, I prefer Crash Team Racing.
It did have a time trial mode.
Really?
Well, I think...
Where they tried to
I feel like everyone
beat each other.
has it. Yeah, Mario Kart has one.
Yeah, their version of... Yeah, they have a time trial mode, and then they have an extra
this
time
gave
trial.
players an option to save a ghost and replay.
Mario
Kart
had that.
Did it? Okay.
Yeah.
I don't
Did it have it in 64, though?
That's what
I'm almost positive, because I remember if you beat time trials, it would keep your ghost for whatever your time trial was. And then if you got fast enough, you could race the developer's ghost. So, and that was actually in a later Mario Kart to unlock certain characters. I think maybe Toadette. You had to have enough of these ghosts unlocked.
Huh.
Yeah.
Enough of the booze.
Something like that. My boo. Anyways.
Yeah,
So
I really wish I had more. I played it. It was fun, but I didn't own it. And yeah, I remember when the HD Crash thing came out, people were like, oh, why didn't this have the Crash go-kart? I'm like, really? That's
what people are excited about? But was there really an ants racer?
Oh, yeah. I meant to say that earlier.
What a weird decision. There is a Game Boy Color kart racing game tie-in to the movie Ants.
Yep.
How bizarre is that?
They got Woody Allen to voice his character for it, even though I don't think...
I mean,
there was
you could also talk about how there's an Aqua Teen Hunger Force Zombie Ninja Pro-Am version, which I played the Pro-Ams.
Did that come out after the movie?
PlayStation 2, 2007, November...
Yeah, that sounds like
that had to have come out after the movie. Anyways.
There's the Nicktoon Racers.
There was also the Cartoon Network racing.
Also Konami racers. Like, for a while, it felt like they were really trying... I'm not sure Konami ever came out.
Toy Story racers.
I didn't play that.
I have played that.
I played the Lego one, the first one. I played it at someone's house because it was for N64.
There's a Digimon racing, apparently. Apparently, they were just...
Brent, you want to mention your candy-coated one?
Oh, there was M&M's racing?
Yeah, for the Wii.
There was also Mega Man Battle and Chase.
Oh, yeah, but that was actually supposed to be a game.
There was also Madagascar carts.
That doesn't surprise me at all. It really feels like this...
You know that Hippo's the sassiest character.
I feel like some of these tie into when we talked about movie-related games where they just churn them out like nobody's business.
This feels real cash-in-y.
To be fair, though, there was several wacky racer ones made, which should actually be a thing.
They're like 4 wacky racer carts.
Yeah, there's actually wacky races starring Dastardly and Muttley. Wacky Races Crash and Dash, and Mad Motors.
There were Sonic Racer games. I feel like
that's something, Mark, you wanted to play.
Oh,
you did.
Yeah, I wanted to play those, but I never really got around to it, and I'm kind of bummed with me being a Sega kid.
So we're going to shrink this in now from just talking about all the random kart racers they seem to spew out there, and talk about one of the other more prolific ones I'd consider that made its way to the kart, the Sonic racing games. And they weren't just Sonic. The first two were. There was a Sonic Drift and a Sonic Drift 2. I never played them, but they were kart racers. They were Sonic. I'm guessing you didn't play them.
I didn't play them, but I know that's where Sega kind of figured out the kart racing.
And we're going to get into the Sonic racing games that I know. Did you play Transformed, right?
I might have. It's been a while.
There was Sonic and Sega All-Star Racing and Sonic and Sega All-Star Racing Transform.
I know the Transform was the one that had to do with you being able to shift your vehicle.
Yes. And
that's where they really started to shine.
And unfortunately, I guess it didn't really take off because they haven't done anything since then.
So, I know you said the shifting your vehicle was via environment.
Yes, when you went past checkpoints, it would change.
Like, is it like a full Transformers-like change?
Yeah.
Okay. So different from, like, Mario Kart.
But it follows the same formula as Diddy Kong did.
When you say formula?
I mean, as far as vehicles. Formula of vehicles. So, plane, you had car, and you had a water setup.
But you don't choose what
you don't choose them. But it had those 3 core vehicles.
Because when you went past different points, because Krause had this game and he really liked it, and I think if any game Mario Kart could take stuff from, it would be this one. Because first and foremost, something you don't think about until you play it differently, Mario Kart needs to allow you to remap the buttons. I've talked to you about this before, Brent. Something that never even crossed my mind is how much better the game could control if they put acceleration on the shoulder buttons.
Ooh.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't even cross your mind because you're constantly holding down A, and I'm 30 at this point, so I'm doing the thing where I'm stretching out my hand tendons like twice
I was a drummer,
a day.
so yeah.
So when he introduced me to this All-Star Trace, whatever, the accelerate is on the right shoulder, and it feels so much more natural to hold that down.
Because it's like a gas pedal.
Right. And in addition, there's full transformations of the vehicles when you go past these checkpoints. So if you're going into a water section, you'll like go off a little ramp, go through a hoop, and then you'll turn into a hovercraft. And it doesn't handle like poo. It actually handles decent. Then you'll go back up onto land briefly, go through another checkpoint, turn back into your car. You'll go off a different ramp. And here, I could be misremembering this. Kraus, I hope you listen to this and can correct me if I'm wrong. You could go off a ramp, hit a checkpoint, turn into a plane, and then go the plane route. Or you could take the low road and stay a car.
Okay.
So, like, this is an honest to God interesting idea. Mario Kart needs to steal this because right now their version of flying is not flying. You glide.
It's gliding?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, they call it a glider.
I mean, even still, Diddy Kong's done real gliding compared.
Yeah, the plane option is sorely missed.
Yeah. And the anti-grav, so we are now getting up to the point where we can compare modern kart racers. So I'm going to compare Racing Transform, which at this point is a 5-year-old game, I think.
Yeah, it was 2012.
5-year-old. To Mario Kart 8, because I feel those are the closest comparison. If there is a better one, call it out. Anyways.
Well, that's a 2-year difference between the two, so I feel like that's...
So, one thing that was pointed out was the version of the blue shell, the thing that homes in on the first person and transform, is not automatically a you're screwed. It is a swarm of hornets, which are intense, but you can still dodge them. It sends like 5 or 6 hornets at you, and you can still avoid them. It's hard, but you can avoid them. Mario Kart 8, on the other hand, mitigated. 8 was the first one that did this, right? You've played 7. Yeah. So they introduced the horn, which could be used both offensively and defensively. Defensively, it could destroy anything coming in at you, minus the lightning bolt.
Yeah.
And offensively, you just slammed into people. It was an area of effect thing. Mm-hmm. And that was the first time you'd actually been able to get away from the blue shell. In some games, you could accelerate out of the blue shell, which I did to you. Yeah, did you know about this one?
I probably have not heard of this.
Oh, my word. It's the best. I looked up online because I just do that. I mean, I've got a podcast about video games. This is not surprising. And they go, there's actually a couple ways you can get out of the blue shell. The most popular one is the horn. But if you use a mushroom right when the blue shell comes down,
you can escape it.
You can, accelerate out of it. I'm like, Brent, I need to show you what I did to that blue shell. Like, what did you do? It's saved on my Switch.
Yeah.
That was Switch. Where I zoomed in on it coming down and me going, woo, right out of it. Oh, it's the best. But that's... For a guy, Mark, who believes strongly in balance, that was something that was sorely needed. The blue shell was wicked OP.
Oh, yeah.
So...
There was nothing you could do about it.
There's nothing.
I mean, you would hear it and you're like, well, there it is.
That's it. The closest thing you could do, and this, especially in Mario Kart Wii, this was bogus, was you could slow down and hopefully by the time it locked onto you, you weren't in first anymore.
There was one other thing you could do too sometimes, but it was a gamble. You could go off the edge of the track if you were on certain levels and get pulled back up.
And then hope nobody took your spot.
Right.
And why it was bogus in games like Wii was because in Wii, your ranking, you got first through whatever, but the stars were determined by how long you were in first.
Yeah, they were a pain. That game was too hard on that stuff.
That game was rough on that. So, the ranking system, I feel like for the unlocks, 8 did it okay. So, 8, I'm going to say, I'll say stole. Stole the banana thing from Diddy Kong Racing. 7 had the coins.
7 had the coins.
Yeah. Was 7 the first one that had the
7
coins?
was the first one.
So you could collect up to 10 coins, and when you had 10 coins, it increased your speed. But when you got hit by other items, when you fell off the track, you would lose coins. Coins weren't used for anything else other than unlocking stuff and going faster. Correct me if I'm wrong here?
Yeah. No, that sounds right.
Okay. So the unlock in those games, in 7 and 8, was for 7 it was also coins, wasn't it? That game, when I learned the ins and outs of it, I beat that game in literally one try. The customizable cart thing was easily manipulated. So the coins are used to unlock stuff. That's better to me, to unlock parts for the car. I do think that characters should continue to be unlocked by doing well in races, but I don't think that the 3-star the star should be requirements for stuff. Unless they're generous with it.
I think in Mario,
you get a big MacGuffin for it.
Well, in 8, where you get all the gold. If you gold everything, you get the gold Mario.
That is an 8 Deluxe.
Okay,
and that's Deluxe. In 200cc.
Yeah.
So to unlock earlier people. Now, do you unlock characters with coins in 8? I feel like you might.
You might.
The reason that is bogus to me is because 8 did a thing where the unlocks cascaded. I did not like that, if we're being frank. You could roll in, if you were 100% confident, you could start playing on 150cc. If you got the gold, it rolled all the way down through 150. So you only had to play through the game once and then for mirror. I was not a fan of that.
See, I always start with 50 anyways because it's the time in between games. I need to get my mojo back.
I can't do 50. 50's Baby Town Frolics. 50, 50, I think I could beat going backwards, to be frank. It gets embarrassing.
Is the car on?
I wish you could do that.
Yeah. I say I'm just sitting behind it, pushing it.
Like tag team. That's what the other person back there was doing.
Exactly. And Mario Kart, since you mentioned tag team, Mario Kart did some interesting things as they progressed.
Like 7. Well, okay, first Double Dash, because Alex would have mentioned Double Dash.
Alex would have mentioned Double Dash.
I feel I was unfair to that game.
Yes, I do too.
Probably most people
I didn't like in multiplayer. I mean, okay, let's be fair. When you're a multiplayer, you want to drive your own cart. I didn't like the idea 2 people were stuck on the same cart together.
Now, was that the only way you could have 2 items, though? I don't feel like you held 2 items in N64, did you?
Man, I can't remember.
I believe so, but I'll double check.
Well, you mean in Double Dash. Well, no, what I mean is 2 players were on the same cart together.
I never played that game competitively or cooperative. I only played it by myself.
So, yeah, when we were in a group, that was the problem. I never wanted to be... I wanted to drive the car. I didn't want to be the jackass on the back who only got to throw stuff.
Yeah. I can't blame you, but they tried some.
And it was new. And I enjoyed it when I was driving my own cart and I got to use both. I liked the idea that speed varied. Like you had Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong. If you switch to Diddy Kong, you move faster. And
then in Wii...
That's when they added the motorcycles.
Which, that game, they were the most unique. Because in that one, they could not get all the drift bonuses, but you could wheelie. That's gone.
I missed that.
Yeah. And then in 7, they introduced the idea that you can customize your cart, but they didn't balance it well. Because I was doing awful in that game until I looked up.
Oh, and in 7, they also had the ramps on the side of the track where you could do tricks to get boat boosts. They took that away in 8.
No.
You can still do tricks.
You can still do tricks.
You can do tricks off of ramps. What I'm talking about is one of the levels is that the mine, the Wario mine.
Yes.
When you're coming around the start line on the other side, there used to be skateboard back.
Oh, you mean half pipes?
Yeah. Quarter pipes.
There used to be those in the Wii version. And if
you're right. I forgot about the quarter pipes.
You used to be able to do tricks.
Yeah, you used to be able to go...
Okay.
I totally forgot about
I missed that. I missed that a lot.
That's
but
fair.
7 also introduced the gliding, which at the time felt awesome, but it's okay.
Yeah.
It feels
It's
gimmicky.
it's more of a novelty.
Yes, I would like.
we're gonna tease you with flight, but it's not really flight.
Really.
I would like for them to add,
Falling with no
real
style.
flying.
Yeah, I would like real flying in that. And 7, the problem with 7, and they rectified this in 8, if you built something that was pure acceleration, you destroyed that game. Because that's what I did. I built something that was pure acceleration, and I never had to redo a cup after I did that. That game was horribly balanced in that regard. They fixed it in 8, but in 7,
Yeah, because if you hit, you could easily pop right back up to where you were at.
But yeah, I feel like Mario Kart being the big one here. There's a lot they could take from Diddy Kong and Sonic.
Diddy Kong and Sonic.
Though I feel like they have taken a lot from Diddy Kong.
They have, but they
Several.
could take more.
Yeah.
In 8, one thing that I felt seemed like it would be cool, but because of camera angles for obvious reasons, it wasn't cool. Air quotes you can't see because we're podcasting. The anti-grav thing. Like,
it was upside down.
It was neat, but
it still looks like you're doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Because it's not like the camera's going to shift to upside down, because then it's not accessible to people who get easily dizzy, because then the camera's going to shift and you're going to vom
get
all
vertigo.
over. Yeah. And I know people, I myself have had vertigo before, and it's the worst. So the anti-grav thing, that arguably felt more gimmicky than the flight.
Than the glides.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that they need to introduce flying. I'm glad that 8 Deluxe brought back the good battle mode.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm also glad it brought back the holding 2 items thing.
Yes.
That was nice.
Yeah.
I think N64 did have 2 items.
I really can't remember.
I know if you had like your shells out, you could still hold on to an item.
Yeah, that was the way it worked.
Okay, but that's still different.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's not technically a 2-item system, but you could have your shells
Like
out or
bananas
your
out.
bananas
Yeah.
out,
Yeah,
and you could
yeah.
pick up another
Hold 'em
box
up.
ready, loaded to go.
Yeah. That's different.
Okay.
So, but in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, if you hold your shell behind you, you can't have 3 items then. You
Okay,
can only
valid.
have the green shell and your other item.
Okay.
So, anyways, I think that they need to have the flight integrated in some capacity. Wouldn't surprise me in the
Planes.
slightest. Yeah. How would you introduce a helicopter into a kart racer?
Well,
I don't know,
like
quick to the
Mario
Peter
Kart.
Copter.
Like, I was just say Mario Kart, when you go off the edge, instead of the glider, you get a helicopter propeller.
How would
Yeah,
it
but,
was?
but then that's not punishing you for going off the track.
Well, no, I mean like not
What?
going off the track. You know what I like?
Oh,
the
you mean
areas
off the
where
ramp.
you
Okay,
glide.
Yeah.
the areas where you glide. Yeah, no, that would be neat. And you would have more control to stay up longer.
Yeah. Or
And they could actually introduce the idea of having different things you turn into. Like you could have the Bowser Zeppelin. Like, this is actually a really solid idea. Congratulations. You get full kudos for that one, Brent. Full kudos. But other than that, yeah, I hate to say that, Mario Kart's still the golden standard, because I love Mario Kart, I do. But I'm trying to give fair and balanced coverage to other kart racers. But when you're the first one everybody recognizes, and it's the one people going back to.
And other games copy a lot of it.
Right. Like there's
maybe. But maybe they'll bring back Crash HD, Crash Team Racing HD.
They might, since they brought back the game.
Yeah, but
Maybe
maybe they don't mess it up as bad as they did with Crash HD Trilogy.
Fair.
I am still angry about that. Anyways, I wish that Sega would continue their racing thing. I feel like Sonic, especially after Sonic Mania and hopefully Sonic Forces, will have enough momentum that maybe they can start to get experimenty again.
Hell, if anything,
Well, I'm shocked since they have those All-Star games with
I
Mario.
was gonna
now
say-
that they don't try and do some tie-in one.
well, yeah, you have like the Olympic Games between
Yeah,
Sonic
there you
and
go.
Mario. Why not give us a kit bash version of kart racing with both of those?
It would probably definitely be a Sonic-led one. I doubt it would be a Mario. Though,
That's fine.
Shocking. I wouldn't be surprised if Mario Kart 9 didn't have Sonic in it.
Yeah, I mean, he was in Smash Wii.
At this point, it's about to become Smash Kart.
Yeah, right. There were a lot of weird characters.
Well, they've run out of Mario characters.
What?
too.
Then do you just have kart racers where you can jump from one cart and smash somebody off their cart?
I think it starts to become something above an E10 at that point. Probably. But we are out of time. Was there anything else you gentlemen wanted to add about this topic?
No, I just wish some of these had more. I wish there was another Diddy Kong. I wish he'd come back.
I wish there were more people in the game because I feel like that's what drives innovation is competition.
Yeah.
And that's my opinion about pretty much anything. But Mark, you got anything additional to add?
No, I'm with you guys. I really would like to see them with the next iteration bring in an actual legit flying mode, even if it's its own separate races. Like, I'll even take that. Just give me levels that are just purely based on flight if you have to, if it's too complicated for you to mix them. And then 10, I'll then expect you to mix them.
I would agree with that concession, but I think that they're just not pushing themselves hard enough.
They're not, because there's no competition for them, like you said.
Yeah.
But in a way that we would like it to go. If anything, if you need a baby step, 9, give us just a pure flight level.
I would say they could do an interim one on the 3DS.
Speaking of flight levels, why not submarines or some underwater boats that are specifically just tuned?
That is another point and we got to transition off because we're already over our time, but why is the underwater racing literally just racing underwater? Right. Why is there no maneuverability down there?
Yeah.
I've always that's another valid point.
Add boats or submarines or something. So there's places they could go with this. If they wanted to.
And they could, the quote unquote sky's the limit, but because they could have a submarine, they could have drive along the bottom, they could introduce the much maligned hovercraft to go across the top of the water.
They have options.
There's options. Like, these are all really solid ideas, and if Mario Kart doesn't do this, maybe a different kart racer can come out.
Hopefully someone does.
But anyways, you cool?
I'm golden.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you, Brent, for coming on.
Yep.
Mark, thank you for coming on.
Absolutely.
Get online and tell us what your favorite kart racer was. What do you hope comes back? What do you miss? Do you love Mario Kart? Is it overrated? Let us know. But until next time, this is Go Opinions.